going to play around a little bit with abstract expressionism and some various techniques that the famous and mighty abstract expressionists use to create their amazing artwork. So I'm just going to run through some materials that I have here. So this is a sketch that I did of the artwork that I want to make. So I have some squares, blue on the outside, red, orange, and yellow on the inside. I mean, my markers are kind of dry, so it doesn't look as intense as I picture it looking when it's done. I have pencil and I have a ruler and my canvas that I'm actually going to paint on. And I also have 3 paintbrushes of various thicknesses and my acrylic paints. I have, this is a plate that I use as a palette that I'm going to mix my paint on. I have some paper towels handy in case I spill anything. I put down a couple of sheets of scrap paper to protect my surface from any paint. And I also have a container of water that I'm going to use once I start mixing up paint and painting it on. So right now I am just planning out my canvas. I made a square right in the middle by measuring. The width is 9. I want to make my square 2 inches by 2 inches. So the width is 9 inches. So I subtract 2 inches from 9 inches, which leaves 7 inches. So I measured in 3.5 inches on each side and drew a line. And then this way is 12 inches, the length. And so I subtracted 2 from 12 inches, got 10. So half of 10 is 5 inches. So I came in 5 inches from this direction, 5 inches from this direction. So I have my square right in the center. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice masking. So I'm going to take some masking tape and I'm going to, I'm going to tape up the inside of my square so that, yeah, when I paint, it won't go, when I paint around the square, it won't go in the center. So I'm going to cover this with tape and then I'm going to measure the outside squares and tape them. And then I'm going to come back and show you what's next. So be back in a second. Okay, so I pretty much have my my squares taped down. I just left one corner untaped because I want to show you that if you want to get tape in the corner there and you want to fit perfectly so it doesn't run over the sides, then all you have to do is kind of rip it so that it has a point on the edge where you're going to place it in the corner. And if you do that on every corner, you'll get a nice, super crisp corner like that. So I have, this is my red square, my orange square, and my yellow square all individually taped up. And now I'm going to put my blue around the outsides. So I mixed up some blue. And for this blue layer, I think what I'm going to do is make it lighter on the outside. I'm going to scumble it on. So yeah, let me do that. Let me get started. So I'm just going to use a lighter blue and I'm just going to kind of go around on the corners. And it should actually be a little bit drier than this. But I actually am using the brush that I mix the color with. So just making sure that I get into those edges like this. And then at the same time, I'm going to color blend. Oh, there it goes. Now it's really looking like scumbling. I'm going to color blend it out to the edges with a darker blue. So as I move to the outside, I'm going to use a darker blue. All right, so let me get that done and then I'll pop back in as soon as I am done with that. All right, so now I have put on all my blue paint and I scumbled on the paint, but then after that dried a little bit, then I dry brushed on like a lighter color the closer I got into the canvas, and I color blend it. So far I have scumbled, I've dry brushed, and I've color blended, and I've masked. So I'm gonna let this dry a little bit, which won't take too long, probably like 10 or 15 minutes because it's acrylic paint. And then I'm going to put a layer of tape over the edge of my blue paint and pull up this outer square, which is where I'm gonna put red, and then I'll put down that red color. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so now I think my paint is dry. And so I'm going to pull up the outer square where I want to put my red paint. I'm going to pull up the masking tape. And then after I get all the masking tape up for the red square, you can see that the tape is staying. Can you see that better? No, you can't see better. The tape is going to stay where the orange and the yellow are going to go on the inside. And I'm just going to put some tape around the blue. And there's some areas where it looks like I didn't really push it down good enough, the tape. So I'm going to try to push the tape down extra hard now, this time when I tape up the blue so that only the red square is exposed. Okay, I'm going to do that now. All right, so I have a couple of coats of red down in this messed area, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush a different red on the edges where the red touches the blue. I'm going to put a cooler red, a red with a little bit of blue on it. And then I'm going to dry brush a red that's a little bit closer. Actually, I'm going to put the red that's a red that has a little bit of orange in it, actually up against the blue to create more contrast against the blue. And then I'm going to put a red that has a little bit of blue in it. So a red that has a tinge of purple up against where the orange going to create a little bit of contrast. But I'm going to do it so subtly that you can barely tell. So I'm going to dry brush. I have a red that's a little bit of purple. You can barely tell. And I'm going to brush it just along the edge there. I think I'm going to take a little bit more blue in it because it's really subtle. So I'm taking a dot of blue and a bunch of red. Oh yeah, you can see that much more clearly. Oh, I don't want it there. I want it over here. Put it here. I'm going to see if I can wipe it up from here because I don't want it there before it dries. Yep, I'm going to put it along where the orange is going to go so that there's a cooler red right butting up against the orange. It's like hardly even noticeable. Well, it's probably more noticeable now than when I pull the paint up, because when I pull, I'm sorry, when I pull the tape up, because when I pull the tape up, I think that if you didn't know that that bluish red was there, you wouldn't be able to tell because it's going to get absorbed by the contrast that's created by the orange up against the red. All right, so I'm going to dry brush a little bit more red there to make it blend in, color blend it a little bit. Just some of the pure red. And then I'm going to add some orange red to the outside. All right, I'm going to do that. And then I will be back to show you what that looks like. All right, so now I dry brushed some red that had some tinge of orange in it along the edge where the red is going to butt up against the blue. And I put a little bit more of a purple red up where the red is going to butt up against the orange to create more contrast. So we'll see how that looks. Right now, I am pretty much going to let this red dry, and then I'm going to pull up the masking tape for the orange and put some masking tape on the red, and then I'm going to paint the orange. All right, I will be back soon. Okay, so now I have painted the orange square. And then what I did was I made the orange more yellow as it got close to the edge where it's going to butt up against the red. And I made the orange a little bit more red where it's going to butt up against the yellow square. So just trying to create a little bit of contrast, but very subtly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel up the place that the orange, I'm sorry, that the yellow is going to go, just this masking tape. And now I'm going to tape off the orange where the orange is to hide the orange. And then I'm going to paint the inside of the yellow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the yellow very yellow in the middle, and then I'm going to color blend it out to the edge where it buds up against the orange. I'm going to add some white to the yellow so that it becomes a little bit lighter. So where it butts up against the orange, there's more contrast there than what there would normally be if it was just a solid orange color. So playing with color theory, playing with masking, and playing with dry brushing and color blending at the same time. All right, let's see how it turns out. All right, so now I have my last block done, my yellow, but I am going to dry brush a little bit of white with yellow. So a little bit of a yellowy white, just dry brush it. I'm gonna take a towel and I'm gonna wipe a lot of the paint off so it's pretty light. And I'm just gonna brush around the edges with this really pale yellow. So I'm kind of dry brushing and color blending at the same time. This is like super fun. I really had fun doing this. And so just remember that your artwork is supposed to be non-representational and use a couple of the techniques that the abstract expressionist used. Dry brushing, scumbling, masking. I'm gonna just put a little bit more of just the pure yellow in the middle to create unity and harmony. And I wanted to create a lot of contrast to bring a sense of excitement to my artwork. And now I think I'm all done. And the whole thing took me about a half an hour. So, you know, just for some context, I think that you shouldn't spend a whole lot of time doing this. But what will really help you a lot is if you do a sketch first. I think doing a sketch first really is helpful to help you decide exactly how you want to, you know, like lay your artwork out. And one thing that I wish I had done that I didn't do such a great job at is really pressing down the masking tape really, really hard on the edges where you're going to paint, because I did have some bleeding underneath the masking tape. And I'm wondering if the abstract expressionist used some form of tape that was just a little bit stickier. So what I wanted to try to get was I was trying to get the red square to look like it was floating on top of the blue a little bit. and then have, the colors kind of build up from there. So this is my abstract expressionist project. And, you can do dripping, you can do all kinds of techniques. You don't have to follow what I did, just kind of do your own thing. But, one thing that I did want to point out is that it does look like my squares are solid colors, whereas in reality, that I made them darker, cooler as they moved in and later to the outside. So there you have it. All right, everybody, good luck and remember to have fun.